Day 34, 5 books to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. As I have mentioned before, entrepreneurship is an amazing, incredible journey, and you need to commit to being a lifelong learner. Okay? Entrepreneurship will always be throwing new things in your way. It's every day. No 2 days are the same. Some days might be similar, but it's very rare that 2 days are exactly the same. So I thought that it'd be a good idea to give you folks some resources that have really helped me. And a couple of these I really need to go back and reread and catch up on. But these are 5 books that like I said, a couple of these I do need to go back and read. But there was a time when I first started my business that I read these books at least once or twice a year. So the first one is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And this book, the gist of Rich Dad Poor Dad, exactly what it sounds like. It is his rich dad, which again, I'm not going to ruin the whole book for you guys, and I'm going to try my hardest to leave out my personal opinions, because again, these are objective principles that really help me in my business, regardless of my personal feelings about the authors, etc. But the contrast of the book was his rich dad, who was actually his friend's wealthy entrepreneur father, and then compared to his poor dad, who was his very highly educated father that kind of was the career man. And that's kind of the gist of the book. It compares and contrasts all of these business principles from that viewpoint I just described, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The second book that I would highly, highly, highly recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, for the simple fact that, like I've talked about in other videos, the way you're going to get people to open up their wallets and support you is to get them to like you. So the best way to get people to like you is to understand how people think and exactly how the title says, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's one of those titles I'm almost positive that you've heard of before. It is timeless. It is just so filled with all of these valuable nuggets. And the thing about these resources is that almost none of this information is new necessarily. There may only be 1 or 2 things that you haven't heard of, or maybe it's a difference in perspective, and that will make all the difference, folks. Again, that's why in-person events are so important. That's why consuming many different forms of media are so important. But this all boils down to committing to being a lifelong learner and committing to your personal development. So the third book that I want to talk about is Atomic Habits. And Atomic Habits is by James Clear. And Atomic Habits literally talks about how even the smallest tiny habits, in seemingly insignificant things that you do in your day, build up to larger successes, snowball effect, etc. So Atomic Habits by James Clear. Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. I have also talked about how the highest earners are the people who can tell the best stories. Why? Because that's how our brains think. So the person who is best able to take you on a journey where the natural conclusion that the person comes to themselves is to purchase your product, that's the difference between millionaires and thousandaires, to put it just as plainly as possible. So last but certainly not least, You Need a Budget, also known as YNAB, Y-N-A-B, by Jesse Mecham. So these 5 books, let me just double check. Yes, I did say all 5 of them. Didn't want to forget anything. Are a very good starting point for taking you to the next level in your personal development and in your business. So these are 5 resources that I would highly, highly recommend. And audiobooks, folks, sit down and read the book. I know we don't all have time for that, but many different ways of consuming media these days.